Ever walk into a room and instantly feel like something's just off,
Yeah.
even if everyone's smiling?
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe you've been on one of those teams where everyone's brilliant,
Right.
but it still feels like you're pushing a boulder uphill.
Yeah.
That's what we're diving into today.
Okay.
That feeling, why it happens, the science behind it.
Interesting.
We're cracking open Simon Sinek's Leaders Eat Last
Okay.
to really understand the link between our biology
Mm-hmm.
and how organizations really work
Okay.
or how they don't work.
Right.
Get ready for some aha moments, because we're about to find out why some workplaces feel like a safe haven
Mm-hmm.
and others
Yeah.
leave us drowning in cortisol, that pesky stress hormone.
It all comes down to this one thing.
What's that?
Our brain, this ancient wiring in our brains.
Okay.
It's something called the circle of safety.
The circle of safety.
Yeah.
Okay.
You see, even in our modern world, with deadlines and performance reviews, our brains still react like those of our hunter-gatherer ancestors.
So you're saying that even in a boardroom,
Yeah.
we're still subconsciously like looking out for saber-toothed tigers?
Exactly.
Wow.
Back then, survival, it all hinged on knowing who to trust, who would have your back.
Yeah.
And those instincts,
Yeah.
they're still so hardwired into us today, influencing how we show up at work,
Right.
even if we aren't aware of it.
That actually makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
It explains why some teams can weather any storm while others just crumble under pressure.
Yeah.
So how does this circle of safety, or lack thereof,
Yeah.
actually play out in our brains?
It's all about the chemical cocktails our brains cook up
Okay.
when we feel safe and supported.
Yeah.
Our brains release oxytocin,
Okay.
serotonin, all those feel-good hormones that promote connection and collaboration.
It's like those same hormones that get released when we hug a loved one, or when you achieve a team win, right?
Yes.
It's that sense of belonging.
Yeah.
Like knowing we're not alone.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But when that circle of safety is absent, when we feel threatened or we feel stressed,
Yeah.
our brains, they switch gears completely
Oh, no.
and they start pumping out cortisol.
Cortisol. Okay.
Now, a little cortisol can be motivating,
Right.
but a constant flood of it
Yeah.
leads to anxiety, burnout,
Right.
and it even impacts our physical health.
It's like that feeling of constantly being on edge.
Yes.
Like you're always one step away from being the prey,
Exactly.
even if there's no real danger present.
Precisely.
Right.
And that's not exactly an environment where you're going to take creative risks
Yeah.
or support your colleagues.
Right.
It's about survival,
Yeah.
not collaboration.
And that brings us to why so many traditional leadership approaches, despite good intentions, often backfire. It seems like they often prioritize those short-term gains.
Yes.
Individual achievement
Yeah.
over building that sustainable, trust-based environment.
Unfortunately, you're right.
Yeah.
Many traditional models,
Yeah.
they're so heavily reliant on dopamine,
Dopamine.
that quick hit, that reward chemical.
Right.
Think about the classic Employee of the Month awards
Oh, yeah.
or bonus structures that are based solely on individual performance.
So while those tactics might offer a temporary boost in motivation, they don't actually create lasting trust or a sense of collective purpose.
Yeah.
They actually might work against it.
You hit the nail on the head.
Right.
Over-relying on dopamine creates a culture of competition, not collaboration.
Yeah.
It's like a sugar rush
Yeah.
followed by an inevitable crash.
And I imagine that's where the long-term success of companies like Costco,
Exactly.
known for prioritizing employee well-being, comes into play.
Yes.
They've tapped into something much deeper, more sustainable.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Companies like Costco understand that a company's success,
Yeah.
it isn't about squeezing every last drop out of their employees.
Right.
It's about creating an environment where people feel valued, respected, where they want to contribute their best.
Yeah.
Not because they have to, but because they want to.
It's about shifting from a me to a we mentality.
That's it.
But how do we actually make that happen?
Right.
How do we create a circle of safety in a world that often feels anything but safe?
It all starts with understanding the power of true leadership.
Okay.
And No, we're not talking about charisma or commanding a room. No, no, no.
Right.
It's much simpler,
Okay.
yet so much more profound.
So you're saying it's about creating an environment where people feel like they can bring their whole selves to work,
Absolutely.
where they feel supported
Yes.
and empowered to contribute their unique talents and their perspectives.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's about leaders understanding their primal role. To illustrate, let's look at the story of Johnny Bravo,
Johnny Bravo.
an A-10 pilot in Afghanistan.
Okay. This Johnny Bravo story sounds like it will really illustrate what you were talking about.
It really does.
What happened?
So picture this.
Okay.
Johnny is thousands of feet up in his A-10,
Okay.
feeling that sense of security you get in a well-built machine. Then the radio crackles, troops in contact.
Oh, no.
The voice says, panicked.
Oh, wow.
Now, standard procedure would be to wait for orders to
Hola.
assess the situation from a detached standpoint.
Okay.
But Johnny Bravo doesn't exactly strike me as a standard procedure kind of guy.
Yeah, you're catching on.
Right.
So he went against orders.
He felt that primal pull.
Oh, wow.
Those soldiers on the ground,
Yeah.
they were his tribe.
Yeah.
Even if he was miles above them,
Wow.
he knew he had to act.
Mm-hmm.
Protocol be damned.
So what happened next?
Johnny flew straight into a maelstrom.
A male.
Terrible weather conditions.
Oh, wow.
That would make most pilots turn back.
Right.
He knew the risk,
Yeah.
but the safety of his tribe,
Yeah.
it trumped his own.
Wow.
His actions that day, providing cover fire when it mattered most, saved 22 lives.
Wow. Talk about courage under fire.
Yeah.
But it sounds like it was more than just bravery.
Yes.
He was tapping into that deep-seated instinct to protect his own, even at his own peril.
Exactly.
Wow.
That is the circle of safety in action.
Yeah.
He didn't have to analyze spreadsheets
Right.
or wait for performance reviews.
Right.
His brain just knew what mattered, and he acted on it.
And that brings us back to, like, the concept of contrasting leadership styles.
Okay.
Tell me more about the differences between leaders like Jack Welch,
Oh,
who famously prioritized shareholder value,
right.
versus someone like James Sinek, the Costco co-founder,
Okay.
who put his employees first.
It's a fascinating study in contrasts, really.
Yeah.
You see Jack Welch,
Yeah.
he was the king of short-term thinking.
Okay.
He was brilliant, no doubt,
Okay.
but his focus was always on maximizing profits, quarter after quarter.
Right.
His rank and yank system,
Yeah.
where he'd routinely lay off the bottom 10% of performers,
Wow.
is a prime example of a dopamine-driven approach.
It sounds like that kind of approach would create a pretty cutthroat environment.
Exactly.
Like you'd be so worried about your own neck that you wouldn't have the time or energy to support your colleague.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while it might have yielded results in the short term,
Right.
pushing GE's stock price up,
Yeah.
it ultimately created a culture of fear and anxiety,
Yeah.
eroded trust, stifled creativity,
Wow.
and ultimately didn't serve the company well in the long run.
So did it actually even work?
No, not really.
Wow.
Now contrast that with someone like James Sinek,
Okay.
who understood that a company's most valuable asset
Yeah.
wasn't its stock price,
Okay.
it was its people.
Interesting. That's a pretty radical concept,
It is.
especially in today's business world,
Yeah.
where everything seems to revolve around quarterly earnings and shareholder value.
It really does.
So how does Sinek put that philosophy into practice at Costco?
He focused on building a circle of safety for his employees.
Yep.
He paid them well above industry standards,
Wow.
offered generous benefits,
Wow.
and created a culture of respect and appreciation.
So he really walked the walk.
He did.
He didn't just talk the talk.
Yeah, essentially, he treated his employees like valued members of a tribe.
I like that.
Yeah,
Not cogs in a machine.
exactly.
And what was the result of this people-first approach?
Okay.
Did it hurt Costco's bottom line or help it?
The results speak for themselves.
Okay.
Costco consistently outperformed GE in the long run.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
That's so interesting.
Their employees feeling valued and respected
Yeah.
were more engaged, more productive,
Okay.
and more likely to stay with the company.
Right.
This led to lower turnover, a more consistent customer experience,
Makes sense.
then ultimately higher profits.
It's a perfect illustration of how prioritizing the well-being of your employees
Yes.
isn't just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
It's also good for business.
Absolutely.
But creating a circle of safety
Yes.
isn't just about offering good pay and benefits.
No.
It goes much deeper than that.
You're absolutely right. It's about shifting the entire culture of an organization.
Okay.
Yeah, it's about creating an environment where people feel safe to speak up, to share their ideas, to challenge the status quo without fear of retribution.
It's about fostering a sense of psychological safety.
Yes.
Where people feel comfortable taking risks, making mistakes,
Yes.
and learning from each other.
That's it.
Basically creating an environment where everyone feels like they can be their true selves without fear of judgment or rejection.
You've got it.
Okay.
And that requires leaders who are willing to be vulnerable themselves, to admit they don't have all the answers, to ask for help, and to create space for others to lead.
It's about moving away from that traditional command and control model of leadership and embracing a more collaborative and empowering approach.
Yes.
But easier said than done, right?
Right.
So how do we actually make this happen? How do we create lasting change, not just a temporary fix?
It requires a fundamental shift in mindset,
Okay.
both for leaders and for those they lead.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together, that we all have a role to play in the success of the organization.
Right.
And that the best solutions often come from the collective wisdom of the group.
It's about tapping into the power of we, not just me.
Yeah.
It's about creating a culture of shared responsibility.
Yeah.
Where everyone feels empowered to contribute their unique talents and perspectives.
Exactly.
And I imagine that requires a certain level of trust.
Trust is the bedrock of any successful team or organization.
Yeah.
It's the invisible glue that holds everything together.
Right.
And it starts with leadership.
Okay.
When leaders are trustworthy, when they're transparent, when they operate with integrity, it creates a ripple effect throughout the organization.
Okay.
People feel safe to be themselves, to speak their minds, to take risks without fear of retribution.
It's about creating a culture where honesty and authenticity are valued.
Yes.
Where people feel like they can be open and honest with each other without fear of judgment or negativity.
Exactly.
But building that kind of trust, it
Totally.
takes time and consistent effort.
It does.
It's not something that can be forced or faked.
Exactly. It's about those everyday actions, those small gestures of empathy and respect that build trust over time.
Right.
It's about listening attentively when someone is speaking, acknowledging their contributions, being willing to help out when someone is struggling, celebrating successes together.
It's about treating each other with kindness, compassion, and understanding, even when things get tough.
Absolutely.
Essentially, it's about creating a work environment that feels like an extension of that primal circle of safety.
Yes.
Where everyone feels supported, valued, and connected.
That's it.
And when that happens, amazing things are possible.
Tell me about it. Let me introduce you to someone who embodies that perfectly.
Okay.
Captain David Marquet.
Okay.
He took command of the USS Santa Fe,
Oh.
a nuclear submarine.
Okay.
With, let's just say, a less than stellar track record.
Okay, a struggling nuclear submarine.
Yeah.
That sounds like a recipe for disaster.
Right.
What did Captain Marquet do differently? How did he turn things around?
Well, he realized that on a nuclear submarine, lives depend on everyone being 100% on their game.
Right.
So instead of barking orders and demanding obedience, he knew he had to foster true ownership in his crew.
So he gave control to the crew.
Yeah.
On a nuclear submarine. That's a bold move.
It is.
Most leaders would shy away from that, thinking it's too risky.
And that's what makes Captain Marquet so fascinating.
What did he do?
He understood that his crew, the ones who interacted with the complex machinery day in and day out, had a deeper understanding of the submarine systems than he did.
Okay.
So he made a radical decision.
What did he do? What did he do?
Instead of giving orders,
Yeah.
he started asking questions.
You got it. He would ask his crew, what do you think we should do?
Exactly.
Or how can we improve this process?
Yes.
He empowered them to think for themselves.
Yes.
To take ownership of their roles and to make decisions.
Exactly.
That almost sounds like the opposite of what you'd expect from a submarine captain.
Right.
Especially in such a high-pressure environment.
Right.
What was the impact of this unusual leadership style?
The results were remarkable.
Okay.
Morale skyrocketed.
Wow.
Mistakes decreased.
Okay.
And the USS Santa Fe went from being the worst performing submarine in the fleet to the best.
Wow. Really? Just from asking questions and empowering the... Instead of giving orders.
Captain Marquet understood that true leadership wasn't about being the smartest person in the room, but about creating an environment where everyone felt safe and empowered to contribute their intelligence.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
By relinquishing control, he actually gained more control, in a sense.
Absolutely.
He tapped into the collective intelligence of his crew.
Yes.
and unlocked their full potential.
He did.
It really makes you think about the traditional model of leadership
I know.
and how it so often stifles creativity and innovation.
It does.
So how can we as listeners,
Yeah.
regardless of our profession or position,
Mm-hmm.
apply these principles of creating a circle of safety in our own lives?
Right.
Whether we're leading a team, raising a family,
Yeah.
or just trying to navigate our own personal relationships.
Yeah, it starts with awareness.
Okay.
Pay attention to how your actions and your words impact those around you.
Okay.
Are you creating an environment of fear and scarcity or one of safety and abundance?
It's about asking ourselves, do people feel comfortable coming to us with problems?
Yes.
Or are they afraid to make a mistake? Do they feel empowered to share their ideas? Or are they worried about being shot down?
Exactly.
Wow.
And it's about being willing to be vulnerable ourselves.
Yeah.
To admit when we don't have all the answers, to ask for help.
Yeah.
And to create space for others to lead.
To step up.
Yes. It's about shifting from a mindset of competition to one of collaboration.
It's about recognizing that we're all in this together.
Yes.
We're all on the same team.
We are.
And that the more we support each other,
Yes.
the more successful we'll all be.
Precisely.
Wow.
And it all goes back to that primal need for connection, for belonging,
Yeah.
for that feeling of being part of something larger than ourselves.
When we create that sense of belonging, that circle of safety
Yes.
in our workplaces, in our homes, in our communities,
Yes.
we unleash a powerful force for good.
We tap into the very best of what it means to be human.
And that's a powerful message to end on.
It is.
To our listeners, I encourage you to take these insights and put them into practice in your own lives.
Yes.
Create that circle of safety, foster those connections,
Yeah.
and watch as your relationships, both personally and professionally, flourish.
Absolutely.
And with that, we wrap up our deep dive into the biology of leadership and trust.
That was great.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep learning, and keep leading with purpose.